What if the most iconic leading men in Hollywood history were living a lie? Behind the dashing good looks and perfect hair that made millions swoon lay one of the entertainment industry's most carefully guarded secrets. From rugged cowboys to sophisticated spies, these legendary stars weren't just acting on screen. They were performing an elaborate deception every single day. The thick, lustrous hair that defined their masculine appeal was nothing more than expertly crafted illusion. Studios spent fortunes, threatened lawsuits, and created elaborate cover-ups to protect these secrets. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 10 Golden Age icons whose perfect images were built on a foundation of sophisticated toupees and Hollywood magic. If you're ready to discover which of your favorite classic stars were hiding their baldness behind movie magic, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because these revelations will change how you see Hollywood's golden era forever. John Wayne, the hidden crown of the cowboy. John Wayne's rugged masculinity made him America's beloved Duke for decades. His windswept hair seemed perfectly suited for frontier adventures. But behind this iconic image lay Hollywood's most expensive secret, an elaborate toupee system that cost more than most actors' salaries. Wayne began losing his hair in his late 30s, just as his career exploded in the 1940s. Rather than accept a balding cowboy, Hollywood invested heavily in creating the perfect illusion. His toupees weren't sleek. They were deliberately messy and weathered, designed to look like hair tossed by desert winds. Maintaining Wayne's image presented unique challenges. Filming in dusty environments made keeping the hairpiece secure nearly impossible. Wayne's ingenious solution was wearing a bandana under his cowboy hat during riding scenes, secretly anchoring his toupee during dangerous stunts. The irony was perfect. Hollywood's most masculine man spent decades wearing an elaborate wig, yet his rugged authenticity never wavered. Wayne's toupee became as essential as his holster and spurs. Cary Grant, Hollywood's most expensive hairpiece. Cary Grant embodied cinematic perfection, elegant, sophisticated, and timelessly handsome. His hair remained flawlessly styled, whether running from crop dusters or charming leading ladies. But this untouchable image came at astronomical cost, built on the most expensive toupees in Hollywood history. Grant began losing his hair in his 30s, right at his career peak. For a star whose appeal depended on youthful charm, a receding hairline threatened everything. The solution was characteristically elegant. Custom toupees worth 10 times more than average stars' hairpieces. According to makeup artist Del Armstrong, Grant carried multiple hairpieces, each designed for different scenes and lighting conditions. What set Grant apart was his aging approach. Instead of clinging to youth, he allowed his toupees to gray naturally, creating subtle transitions that fooled everyone. Grant's perfectionism extended to every detail. His toupees were crafted by finest artisans, maintained by specialists, and replaced at first signs of wear. This wasn't vanity. It was calculated investment in maintaining Hollywood's most sophisticated image. Frank Sinatra, the chairman's little friend on top. Frank Sinatra transformed from skinny crooner into the sophisticated chairman of the board. His perfectly styled hair became part of his suave image, never out of place whether performing in Vegas or filming in Hollywood. But Sinatra's famous locks were actually his little friend on top, a closely guarded toupee. Sinatra began going bald in his 30s, just as his career revived with an Oscar for From Here to Eternity. The hairpiece became essential to his image as smooth operator and cultural icon. Unlike other stars who hid their secret, Sinatra's toupee became a running joke among Rat Pack friends. Dean Martin frequently teased him about his little friend during Vegas performances, while Sammy Davis Jr. recalled how sensitive Frank was with strangers. Yet among his inner circle, the toupee was fair game for gentle ribbing, a sign of deep friendship and Sinatra's acceptance of necessary illusion. The hairpiece wasn't just vanity, it was part of Sinatra's carefully constructed persona as America's ultimate entertainer, becoming as integral as his fedora and microphone. Sean Connery, from Bond's hair to bald icon. Sean Connery created cinema's most iconic secret agent, but James Bond was hiding a secret. 007's thick, virile hair was actually an expertly crafted toupee. The man who embodied masculine sophistication had been losing his hair since age 20, long before he ever ordered a martini. When Connery was cast as Bond, producers panicked. A suave secret agent couldn't be bald. The solution was ingenious. A toupee became part of Bond's equipment, as essential as his Walther PPK. Makeup artist Charles Parker created an incredibly durable hairpiece that could withstand underwater fights and passionate love scenes without shifting. The Bond toupee was an engineering marvel, secured with super strong adhesive and specially reinforced for action sequences. It had to look perfect whether Connery was skiing down mountains or seducing beautiful women. After a decade with his little friend, 40-year-old Connery made a bold decision. Tired of the toupee's falsity, he embraced natural baldness. His decision didn't diminish his appeal. It created a new standard, proving confidence mattered more than hair. Humphrey Bogart, never without his crown. Humphrey Bogart's cold gaze, gravelly voice, and nonchalant demeanor made him cinema's ultimate tough guy. As Rick Blaine in Casablanca, he epitomized masculine sophistication. But beneath the spotlight lay a shocking secret. Bogart was severely bald and never appeared without his carefully crafted toupee. Filming with Bogart required special considerations. Lighting technician Harold Edison recalled developing techniques to hide gaps and avoid revealing the hairpiece's edges. The toupee was so obvious under certain conditions that entire lighting setups had to be redesigned around concealing it. Even wife Lauren Bacall rarely saw him without his toupee. Bacall revealed that Bogart never removed it in public and rarely in private. The hairpiece had become so integral to his identity that he felt naked without it. The most heartbreaking moment came during Bogart's cancer battle in 1956-1957. Even as disease ravaged his body, he insisted on wearing his toupee in the hospital bed, a dying man still determined to maintain his perfect image until his final breath. Fred Astaire. The toupee that never missed a step. Fred Astaire's elegance commanded respect throughout Hollywood. But observant viewers might have noticed something remarkable. His hair never moved, even during frantic dances. Whether spinning, jumping, or dancing on ceilings, Astaire's locks remained perfectly in place thanks to an invisible dance partner, a meticulously crafted toupee. Astaire began losing his hair in his early 20s, and by Hollywood arrival he was completely dependent on custom toupees. But how do you keep a hairpiece perfect during complex choreography? This challenge required innovation that pushed hairstyling technology to its limits. Makeup artist Robert Schiffer developed special adhesives that could withstand sweat and rapid movement. Astaire's toupees featured silk bases instead of standard lace, making them more secure and breathable during extended dance sequences. Astaire carried multiple identical hairpieces and trusted only select stylists to maintain them. Despite performing cinema's most physically demanding dances, his toupee never shifted or fell off during filming. He was a magician of consistency, creating memorable moments while maintaining perfect hair. Spencer Tracy, the natural actor's unnatural secret. Spencer Tracy captivated audiences with acting so effortless it seemed like he was simply living on screen. His natural, everyman appeal made him one of Hollywood's most respected actors. But ironically, that very naturalness concealed a sophisticated secret. His perfect hair was actually an expertly crafted toupee. Tracy began wearing one in the early 1950s when his hair had thinned considerably. Rather than suddenly appearing with thick hair, MGM employed a clever strategy of gradual enhancement. His first toupees simply filled thin spots, creating completely natural appearance. Over time, they slowly became fuller, ensuring audiences never noticed the transition. This gradual change perfectly aligned with Tracy's acting philosophy that performance should never draw attention to itself. Perhaps most tellingly, Tracy almost always kept his toupee on, even in private, except with Katharine Hepburn, his co-star and great love. Hepburn recalled that Tracy would remove it during their most intimate moments together, revealing the depth of their relationship and his vulnerability. William Holden, the Golden Boy's hidden struggle. William Holden was dubbed Hollywood's Golden Boy, with bright, charming looks that made him a leading man for decades. But behind that perfect image lay a secret that caused considerable personal anguish. Holden wore a toupee for most of his adult career and never felt comfortable with the deception. The secret began when Holden was just 30, ironically, as his career was reviving with Sunset Boulevard in 1950. In a film about Hollywood's illusions, his own natural hair was beginning to thin noticeably, forcing him to join stars living behind artificial facades. According to Paramount hairstylist Larry Germain, Holden's toupees were designed to perfectly fill bald spots while matching his natural hair. As he took on more romantic roles, the hairpieces became progressively thicker. Unlike many stars who accepted their toupees as professional necessities, Holden never made peace with his hairpiece. He remained deeply uncomfortable with the constant deception, often removing his toupee when alone, troubled by the need to hide this truth about himself. Bob Hope, the toupee. That became part of the act. Bob Hope's signature hooked nose and ageless appearance won millions of hearts over his decades-long career. His legendary hair seemed as timeless as his jokes, never aging despite passing years. But Hope's locks were actually a sophisticated toupee that became an integral part of his comedic persona. Hope began wearing a toupee in the 1940s while rising to fame as a radio star and comedian. Unlike other stars who wore hairpieces solely for romantic images, Hope's toupee had to endure physical comedy, quick movements, and hilarious situations he created in performances. What made Hope's situation unique was how he incorporated his secret into his act. During performances for troops overseas, he would intentionally reference his toupee in jokes, using it humorously to create laughter when he feigned surprise about his hair moving unexpectedly. While other stars' toupees evolved with time, Hope's hairpiece remained virtually unchanged for 50 years. Even when it became obvious in his 80s and 90s, audiences accepted it as an indispensable part of the Bob Hope they had grown to love. Cesar Romero. When the toupee became the star. Cesar Romero elevated toupee wearing to an art form, but with an unexpected twist. Over time, his hairpiece became more famous than his acting. From romantic leading man in the 1930s to the maniacal Joker in Batman, Romero's perfect hair wasn't his own, and eventually, he stopped caring who knew it. Romero began losing his hair in his early 30s, creating challenges for his image as a dashing Latin lover. Instead of panicking, he experimented with different looks before finally committing to a toupee when thinning became too obvious. The fascinating aspect was how his hairpiece became increasingly noticeable over time. In early films, it looked natural, but by his Joker transformation, the toupee was so obvious it resembled a furry hat perched on his head. Makeup artist Ben Nye recalled that Romero never bothered hiding his secret. He would openly adjust his toupee on set or remove it when overheated, declaring that since he was acting, the hairpiece was simply part of his performance. His casual attitude created some of cinema's most unintentionally hilarious moments. These 10 Hollywood legends prove that the Golden Age's most carefully guarded secret wasn't scandalous behavior. It was something as simple as hair loss. From John Wayne's rugged cowboy locks to Sean Connery's sophisticated Bond coiffure, the images that defined masculine appeal for generations were built on expertly crafted illusions. Some stars, like Cary Grant and Frank Sinatra, treated their toupees as professional tools, investing fortunes in maintaining perfect appearances. Others, like William Holden and Humphrey Bogart, struggled with the psychological burden of living behind artificial facades. Most remarkably, figures like Bob Hope and Cesar Romero eventually embraced their secrets, turning potential embarrassment into endearing character traits. Perhaps most telling is how these revelations don't diminish these stars' legacies. They humanize them. The cowboys, spies, and leading men who seemed impossibly perfect were dealing with the same insecurities as everyone else. Their talent, charisma, and screen presence mattered far more than what was growing on their heads. These stories remind us that Hollywood's golden age magic came from the artistry of creating believable illusions. If these revelations surprised you, subscribe to discover more secrets behind Hollywood's greatest legends. Share this video with classic movie fans, because sometimes the most human stories are hiding behind the most perfect images.